Hello everyone and welcome to your RE lesson for this week. So this week we are going to be looking at the 3 pillars of Lent. We probably won't get onto the second part, which is what does it mean to be a Christian, but we're going to look at what the 3 pillars of Lent and why Christians choose to fast. Okay, so the first little bit here is it just introduces you to the 3 pillars of Lent. So you've got prayer, fasting and almsgiving. Now I'm sure straight away you know what prayer is and you've got some idea of what fasting might be, whether or not you fast for your own religion or whether or not you know because you've seen things about it or you've heard things about it. So we know to pray is to pray to God. Fast is to do with food and it's to do with normally to giving up food. And then we've got a picture here. It says almsgiving, but it says give. So what do you think almsgiving is all about? Well, almsgiving is about giving either money or food or clothes or time to people that need it. And it's about being selfless and giving things that you don't need to people who are less fortunate than you. And that's a really important part of Lent for Christians. So we're going to look a little bit more now. We've got a video here to watch about what Lent is. So I'm going to share that with you now.
Okay, I think we're ready. Do you know what day it is, Sasha?
Pancake Day!
Yeah, that's right. But the proper name for it is Shrove Tuesday.
Shrove Tuesday?
Yeah, and tomorrow is the start of Lent, the 40 days leading up to Easter, when we remember the Christian story of the temptation of Jesus.
What's that?
After Jesus' baptism, the Holy Spirit guided him into the wilderness, where he spent 40 days and 40 nights without food. The devil tried to tempt him to do things, for example, turn stones into bread to eat, but Jesus refused every time.
That sounds really hard.
It was. That's why we usually give up something for Lent, like sweets or fizzy drinks, to remember how Jesus resisted temptation. Do you know what the day after Pancake Day is called?
Biscuit Day?
No, silly. It's called Ash Wednesday. It's the first day of Lent. In many churches, the vicar will make the sign of the cross on people's foreheads with ashes. This symbolises that we feel sorry for any bad things we've done.
I didn't know that.
Now you do. Okay, go get Mum so you can make pancakes.
Yay!
Okay, so we've watched a little video about Lent, so you should have a little bit more of an understanding. Lent is something you will have covered in previous years, but you might not have be able to remember it, or it might have been a while ago now. So for 2021, Lent begins on Wednesday, 17th of February, which is next Wednesday. It comes after Shrove Tuesday or Pancake Day. So you probably have heard of Pancake Day. And it ends on Monday, the 29th of March. Lent is an old English word meaning lengthen. Lent is observed in spring when the days begin to get longer. So let's move on, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this. So what is the story of Lent then? So Jesus went in, Christians believe that Jesus went into the desert to fast and pray before beginning his work for God. Jesus was tempted several times by Satan, which is like the devil, but was able to resist. So that was meaning, like in the video, it was talking about the fact that the devil told him to turn rocks into bread, but he refused and he didn't do it. And even though he was really hungry and even though he probably wanted to eat, he fought his temptation and didn't. So then Lent allows Christians to remember Jesus fasting in the desert, and it was a time of giving things up and a test of self-discipline. So it was about, Christians believe that Lent is about overcoming like hard things, even doing things that are difficult, because like giving something up, even though it's hard, because to be a better person and to control yourself and to have discipline and things like that. So there are many foods that some Christians do not eat in Lent. So some Christians give up like meat or fish or fats. So fats and eggs and milky foods. That basically means like sugary treats, things that are really nice and tasty that you want a lot, but that you don't actually need to to survive. You don't need chocolate to survive. You don't need crisps. We just like them. And so the idea for a lot of Christians is to give up those things that you don't need to survive, but are like luxuries, like additional things that sort of make life nice, and you give up those luxuries to show self-discipline and to show that you can control yourself. So for Christians, Lent is about being a good Christian by praying, almsgiving, and fasting. Different Christians fast in different ways. Some give up one food item for 40 days, and sometimes something yummy like chocolate, and others give up meat. This is called fasting. So it depends on the Christian themselves on what they choose to give up, and it might depend as well on how they choose to fast. So some Christians might fast more, and they might fast by only eating one meal a day. So that is, throughout history, a lot of Christians have fasted by only eating one meal a day rather than 3 meals. As well, it's for a lot of Christians, it's about giving up, like they call like bloody meats. So not chicken, but like bloody meats, and giving up those and only having certain meats on certain days. So again, it's that idea of controlling what you're eating to show that you're giving up something. And that can be in lots of different ways. And then again, you have some Christians that choose to give up one item of food, or they might give up sugary food, or they might give up sweets or something like that. So you can see that within Christianity and within Christians, there's lots of different ways that people choose to show fasting and choose to follow that sort of principle. Okay. So how is Lent celebrated then? So you have Shrove Tuesday, which comes before Lent, which is in Western Christian churches. So the day before Lent starts with Shrove Tuesday. It's also known as Pancake Day. And its day was traditionally the last chance to use up the foods that Christians would not be eating. So the idea of Pancake Day comes from the fact that you'd be giving up fatty foods for 40 days. So you needed to get rid of all the fatty foods because Christians wouldn't be eating them for 40 days and they didn't want it to all go bad. And also, if it's in your house, it's temptation, isn't it? You're more likely to eat it. So you get rid of it all on Pancake Day. And that's where pancakes come from, because pancakes are very often sweet and you put lots of sweet things on top of them. They involve eggs, they involve fats. So having a Pancake Day gets rid of all those sweet things before Lent can begin. So that is Pancake Day or Shrove Tuesday. And then it's followed by Ash Wednesday, which is the first day of Lent. On Ash Wednesday, many Christian churches hold services during which Christians are marked on the forehead with a cross of ashes. Okay, this is a sign of saying sorry to God for any wrongdoing. Okay, and then at the end of Lent, after 40 days, that's when Christians then celebrate. You have Good Friday and then Easter. Okay, so the idea is you're giving things up before the big celebration of Easter. And we know that Easter is normally celebrated by chocolate eggs and lots of food. So you were giving up something for 40 days to then sort of be allowed to have it again after. Kind of like, almost like it's a reward after the end of Lent. Okay, Lent prayer. So prayer is a solemn request for help or thanks addressed directly to God. Christians obviously pray at various times. They might pray daily or whenever, however they sort of choose to show their faith. But during Lent, the idea is that Christians would pray more than they do at other times of the year to, again, show their thanks to God, to show how grateful they are for the things that they've got. And so that's an important way that Christians sort of change how they do things during Lent. Lent is all about self-control and dedication to God. So showing that they're praying more shows that dedication to God during Lent. Okay. So we're going to move into fasting, because fasting for Christians is quite different to how fasting is for different other religions. And so I thought we'd go into it in a little bit more depth in the other areas. So in the Bible, in preparation for his work for God, as we saw in that video, Jesus spent 40 days and nights in the desert. This showed his dedication to God. He was tempted many times, but he fought all temptation. So the point of it is, he was without food for 40 days. And even though he wanted to eat, he put his faith in God and didn't eat food. He trusted God, and he waited for 40 days and fulfilled sort of that promise that he'd made. And he avoided temptation, even though it would have been very easy for him to sort of, it would have been very easy to maybe to fall into temptation. Perhaps for us, if we're thinking about something really difficult, like not eating chocolate for 40 days, I know I'd find that really hard. So the idea is to fight that temptation. So that's how Christians honor the sacrifice they believe that Jesus made by fasting. So it's not commanded in the Bible, which is very different to other religious fasting, such as like in Islam. Fasting is mentioned in the Bible, but it's not sort of a thing that you have to do as a Christian to be a Christian, which is, again, is different to other religions. It's not a punishment for Christians to fast. It's it's supposed to be like a show of your self-control and to show your dedication to God. So Christians give up things that are difficult to go without. So they don't give up like eating apples because, you know, we prefer eating chocolate, don't we, to apples. So they give up something that's tricky to go without. And quite often that's food, but sometimes and some Christians choose to give up different things. And some Christians choose to give up things that aren't foods, but are other things that are hard to go without. So fatty foods such as chocolate is quite an often thing that Christians sort of go without. Foods that you eat for a treat and you don't actually need. So by that I mean it's not your main meal. It's not what you're eating to sort of nourish yourself. It's things that you're eating additionally. Sort of maybe things that aren't as good for your body. They're the things that you probably give up. Smoking or other bad habits. So quite often for Lent, people might give up things that are bad for them. So smoking, or they might maybe take something up. So if they perhaps don't exercise as much as they think they should, maybe they would treat their body better during Lent and choose to exercise more. Like gossiping and talking about other people. So sort of doing not so good things that aren't as nice, Christians would try and give up. And then shopping and splurging without any need. So like, for example, I mean like going shopping for clothes when you don't need any just because you want to. Because Lent is about not splurging. Lent is about sort of having 40 days where you aren't spending all your money, you aren't eating lots of food. You're sort of being a bit more modest with what you're having. And that's why that sort of shopping might be a thing that people might give up. Some people give up as well, like TV or a certain TV channel, you know, things like that, things that aren't beneficial for them. So it's about teaching control. So for fasting for Christians, it's to go without. Fasting just means to go without something. And it's about control. So it's about controlling yourself and your urges and your urge for something. I know we all get cravings for chocolate sometimes. I always get cravings for chocolate. So I think, really fancy a chocolate bar. But for Christians, during Lent, the important part is having those cravings and the temptation and then saying no to them and not ending up doing those things that they've sort of promised themselves they won't. And it's about keeping strong, even though it's hard and difficult, to sort of, for Christians to honour what Jesus went through and how difficult it was for Jesus. Okay. Right, so almsgiving. So to give alms is to give help to others that are less fortunate than you. So this is important in lots of different religions. And again, almsgiving is important throughout the year for Christians, but it's specifically important during Lent because Lent is all about going without things that you don't need, which is when giving to people who do need them is, I suppose, feels more important. Because if you are aware that you don't need to spend this money on clothes, then you've got that money that you could then donate to other people that do need it for things that they need to survive. So it says that in the Bible that Christians should give alms, and so it's a really important part of Lent. Christians will donate money to charity or donate clothes or time to others. So in the past, Christians used to give money to people to just give money to the poor. Obviously now when we have charities, some people are a bit more uncomfortable with giving money directly to people, specifically because you don't really know what people are using the money for or who needs the money the most. So it's quite difficult. So a lot of Christians will pick a charity to donate to, whether or not that's a charity that operates in the UK or operates worldwide. And they'll pick something that probably means something to them. They might also donate clothes as well and things like that. Maybe they donate food to food shelters and things like that. It's all about showing that we're all the same, that we're all human, and it's to spread compassion and kindness. And Christians see this as sharing the love of God. So by giving to other people, they're sharing that love of God through that sharing. So we've got 3 pillars then. We've got almsgiving, which is to give to the poor, to people who are less fortunate. Fasting, which is obviously all about giving something up that you don't need, okay, for a certain period of time, for 40 days. And then also through prayer. So those are the 3 main pillars of Lent. So what we've got these questions here that I'm going to give you as your part of your questionnaire for this lesson. So we're going to look at what are the 3 pillars of Lent, which I've just talked about. What can Christians do to give alms? So I want you to think now, and when you fill in this questionnaire, what could people do to give alms? I mean, if for you and whatever religion you are, you probably do give to charity as well. Think about what charities you choose to give to, why you choose to give to those charities. And think about why Christians fast. So what is the point of fasting for Christians? Well, it's to honour the sacrifice that Jesus made when he spent 40 days in the desert. And then think about, why do you think Lent is important to Christians? Why is that an important day for Christians? Okay, so that's it for this lesson. This is just a brief overview of the 3 pillars. The 3 pillars of Lent, and then we will have a little look more about how it links into specifically the teachings of sort of Jesus in the Bible, and also how that kind of affects Christians nowadays. So we'll look at this in a bit more detail. This is just the first lesson for our RE, and then we'll go into more detail, hopefully just after half term. Okay, so that's your lesson for today. I hope that you've enjoyed it and you've learned something new. I feel like I learned something new when I was reading about this, because I don't think I knew as much as I thought I did about Lent. So, I mean, for me, I just knew about the part where you give up chocolate after Pancake Day. And that's kind of all I knew. So it was really interesting to me finding out all this extra information. So I hope it's helped you guys, and I hope you found it interesting and you've learned something new. Please fill out the questionnaire that I'll set for you so you can make sure your work's done. If you haven't accessed that work, then obviously you won't get a tick in your attendance, so make sure you do it, because if you've watched the video, you might as well just quickly do the questionnaire and do your work. That's everything then. Okay, I'll see you later. Thank you.